Hey guys, this is Franklin from the Law Academy. In law school, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. Since commerce power is heavily emphasized both in class and on constitutional law exams, here's a big picture path to understanding commercial intrastate activity. Let's start with an example. State Blue passed a marijuana law that authorized residential growing for homeowners within the state. However, the federal government and neighboring State Red still outlaw marijuana, and State Red has noticed an increase in crime associated with State Blue's new liberal marijuana laws. The issue is whether State Red can successfully challenge State Blue's law as unconstitutional because it violates Congress's federal regulation banning weed. Let's check out the arguments. State Blue, they're going to argue that Congress has no business regulating their weed because State Blue is minding their own business, and if its citizens want to blaze up, then leave them alone. In other words, their argument is that State Blue's law regulating residential marijuana growing doesn't involve instruments traveling along channels and into other states. So it's not an interstate activity that Congress can regulate. Without an interstate activity, the federal law is handcuffed and doesn't have an enumerated power like the Commerce Clause to latch onto. However, State Red has some counterpunches up its sleeve. You see, State Red would argue that although the activity of residential growing is intrastate, it still affects other states, their state in particular. Remember, crime related to marijuana growing has increased in State Red because of State Blue's new liberal law. Using what's called the substantial effects test, State Red or Congress would argue that although the activity seems limited to State Blue alone, there is still a rational basis to believe that legalized marijuana growing in State Blue substantially impacts interstate commerce in State Red. They would support this argument by discussing the impact that crime has on their local economy, the increasing cost of law enforcement, or the cost borne by local businesses and residents. What the substantial effects test boils down to is that even if State Blue's law is intrastate or isolated to their state, if it has an important enough commercial impact on other states, then Congress can use the commerce power to regulate State Blue's in-state or intrastate activity. Congress has a super weapon called the commerce power. Congress can use the commerce power as a rationale for making federal laws that states or individuals have to follow. But there are some limitations, like there must be 2 or more states involved. And if there's only one state involved, then there needs to be a pretty good argument that the single state's activity impacts at least one other state. Also, the activity generally needs to have an economic impact, hence the word commerce, which relates to words like commercial, business, and money. So that's both sides of the coin when you analyze intrastate activity and regulations. Now that you've got the big picture, read your cases, listen and lecture, and get practice analyzing intrastate commerce with practice problems.